I'm talking with Curtis Anderson. It is such a treat to have you. Curtis is a vocalist and my dear friend. Curtis, how about you tell our audiences a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Curtis Anderson. I'm a singer. I just recently moved to Seattle and I'm getting some work here doing that. I graduated from Lawrence University in June of this year with a degree in vocal performance.
And you had a really awesome senior recital to cap off your final year at Lawrence University, where you premiered Mushroom Songs, which is a collaboration between your brother, Eric, myself, you, your mom. Did you find that the process of preparing Mushroom Songs was different from your usual process of preparing new music that you're working on?
I know the poet. I love mushrooms. The music was written by my brother, so I kind of get to get into his head when I'm looking at this music. I get to be in your head when I'm looking at the words. Um, yeah, so that has been interesting having this personal connection to the work, the project has been interesting because I get to know the music and the poetry better because of it, but also the people better through their creative output. That's what's beautiful about this collaborative project, is that we each to bring different things to the table and kind of learn from each other.
Absolutely. I feel like there's a metaphor there as well with, the way
Mm.
mushrooms work, with the way fungi work. Do you see a lot of parallels there? Did you find that it deepened your relationship with mushrooms, working on mushroom songs?
Yes, it got me to think a lot about my relationship with mushrooms and like how can this possibly be related to music and how can I make that make sense to me as a musician. You kind of need to do this, or any artist really, you kind of need to do this if you're going to bring um, art to a sort of a mundane thing, maybe you could call mushrooms. Um, so Eric took a lot of inspiration from, or I shouldn't say inspiration. He structured some of the songs on sort of structures that are common in mushrooms. Um, there's instances of the Fibonacci sequence, which is famous throughout all of nature, and let's see. There's also the sort of palindromic shape, the sort of pyramid shape. Some songs have that. Um, yeah, so that's been interesting. There are these structures then that Eric put into the music, that I can pull apart and be like, okay, this is kind of like a mushroom, and this is Eric's idea of a mushroom. And then I get to use that as a performer, working with my mom as the collaborative pianist, to bring together a performance and bring this music to life.
Yeah. Well, speaking of performance, tell me about performing mushroom songs for your senior recital, as well as, working on it a little bit more and then getting to record it with your mom several months later. Love to hear about both of those.
Sure. So the performance at Lawrence University for my senior recital was interesting. I performed um, a couple of the songs here and there over the year at some different events at Lawrence, and so I got to test them out, sort of, see if the ship floats. And those performance opportunities are really important because you get to see what you do in front of an audience when you're performing the music, and you get hopefully a video or an audio recording, or your friend tells you something about that. Anyway, so I was able to workshop these songs throughout that whole year, through these performances, and that led up to the senior recital. And then you get to the recording after the recital is done, and that's also a very interesting tool to use. I mean, yes, it's something you can listen to and enjoy, hopefully, but it's also something you can be like, did that work? Did I like that? And yeah, that kind of leads into the next performance. These kind of keep building onto each other. I don't think of this project as like, um yes, there are milestones, but I don't think it ever ends and then restarts. I don't feel like it like that at all.
It's an ongoing process. Do you have a
It isn't.
yeah. Do you have a favorite movement that you really like performing? I feel like Mushroom Man is always a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, Mushroom Man is awesome. That's it's kind of yes, it's a crowd pleaser. I want to talk a little bit about that. So I performed that in the year leading up to my senior recital, and I remember actually people in the audience just dying laughing. Hearing that for the first time, which was amazing. That was a great response because it's a funny song, um, and the poetry is it's odd, whimsical, I would say is probably the best term to describe it. It's like what am I singing about here? Me and John Gates, he was my professor at Lawrence University. We talked for a while about like what could this possibly mean? Um, yeah, and we arrived at a performance I think that's very entertaining. Yeah, it's fun music to perform. I didn't answer your question. Favorite song? Mushroom Man is great. I really like that one, but it's hard. It's hard. As you grow, as I've been performing these and working on these, I get to know them differently. And for a while, there were some that I was like, I don't really love performing this, and then others I was like, this is easy. This is great. I love it. And that changes a little bit. So I would say. Carrying Communion 1 has always been pretty special to me. I really like that one. The way that the story builds in there. There are a couple of distinct characters, so that's really, really interesting to perform because you have to have three different voices, which is something I didn't have any experience with doing before in a song. So I'd say Carrying Communion 1 probably is an agreeable favorite.
What do mushrooms and fungi mean to you, and have they taught you anything about music?
Yes. So, yeah, I think we both came to mushrooms the same way. A book by Merlin Sheldrake called Entangled Life. Um, I was drawn to that book through a couple of chapters. There were some interesting things. I learned that forests can communicate with each other through mycelial network, excuse me, and that's really interesting. They send chemicals and electrical signals back and forth, and they trade nutrients with trees. It's really really cool. I learned that the world's oldest and largest uh, organism is a honey mushroom in Oregon. Um, so what this has, let's see, you asked what mushrooms have taught me about music. Um, let's see, I think it's to look in niche places for things you don't know. Generally, I like the analogy of knowledge sort of being revealed. I don't know that you can put like 100% confidence in that sort of analogy, but you're holding a candle, and as the candle gets brighter, it reveals more of what was in the darkness. So how that relates to this is that mushrooms, by reading this book, I learned about a whole world that I knew nothing about. I couldn't even ask these questions. I didn't know that I didn't know this. And so it's sort of in the same way that reinforced the idea that okay, there's probably a lot of things in music that I also don't know and don't know that I don't know. Um, and sort of that guiding principle has been really really helpful. It's helped me uh, maintain curiosity in music, be interested and gain access to things that maybe otherwise I would have instinctively rejected. That's been interesting. So yeah, mushrooms kind of they kind of showed me that.
What do you hope audiences will take away from mushroom songs when they listen to it?
Oh, let's see. I hope they take away some curiosity. I hope that the job that all four of us have done um, has resulted in something that people hear this and they're like, wow, this is really interesting. Maybe I want to learn more about mushrooms, or maybe I want to hear more art song. um, or hear some live music or something like that. And yeah, I hope it inspires people to be curious about anything. I mean anything. If it makes them want to go cook a meal, awesome. That's great. And if that's all it does, oh well. Hopefully they share it with their friends as well. Uh, yes.
Thank you so much, Curtis, for your time. It's been such a treat to talk with you about mushrooms and music and, of course, the song cycle mushroom songs.
Thank you so much, Maya. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you. It was wonderful. Thank you.